Good day, everyone. So we are the Group 5, and today we will be discussing about the metacognitive and integrated approach. For that, let me introduce to you my group mates. We have me, Miss Jace May Tagalog, Miss Rincy Duarte, and Miss Roxanne Supiter, and yours truly, Sir Dashiell Chase. So let me share to you our objectives for today's lesson. So by the end of this lesson, students will be able to first demonstrate understanding of the lesson by recalling prior knowledge and explaining how it connects to new concepts. Next, identify and evaluate their own thinking strategies by reflecting on how they solve problems and suggesting ways to improve the learning process. Third, apply the concepts learned in an integrated task that connects the lesson to real life or cross disciplinary situations. And lastly, set personal learning goals and reflect on their progress, thereby valuing the importance of metacognition in both academic and everyday contexts. Okay, so to proceed, so let's learn what is metacognition. So, metacognition is the ability to think about and monitor your own thinking processes, often described as thinking about thinking. So, yeah, metacognition is simply means like thinking about your thinking about your thinking. It is when you become aware of how you learn, what strategies work for you, and how you can improve the way you study and many more. For example, when you ask yourself questions like, mm, do, do I understand this lesson? What study method should I use? And is my strategy working or do I need a new one? So you are already using metacognition. So to proceed, so according to John H. Flavel, he is a developmental psychologist and founding father of metacognition theory. So he introduced the concept of metacognition and defined its core components in the 1970s. So his work laid the foundational framework for understanding, thinking about thinking, and is extensively used in educational psychology today. So, according to him, according to John Flavel, the psychologist who introduced the term metacognition, there are the metacognition has two main parts. So to proceed, so the first one is the metacognitive knowledge or the what. So metacognitive knowledge is a person's understanding of how their own cognition works. So it is typically broken down into three variables. First is the person's knowledge, past knowledge, and strategy knowledge. So what is person knowledge? So person knowledge is understanding your strengths and weaknesses as a learner. So task knowledge is about understanding what task it requires and how hard it might be. And lastly, when we say strategy knowledge, it is knowing which study or problem solving methods you can use or you can utilize. Okay, so that's the metacognitive knowledge or the what. So next part is the metacognitive regulation or the how. So metacognitive regulation is the purposeful control you exert over your thinking and learning. So it is often described as a cycle with three key phases: planning, determining the appropriate strategies and resources needed before you begin a task. So planning is like choosing what strategies to use. Like for example, summarizing or drawing or diagrams. So to proceed, next is next is uh there are metacognitive approach. So okay, to proceed. So what is metacognitive approach? So metacognitive approach, it refers to the methods used to help students understand the way they learn, are process designed for students to think about their thinking. So when we say uh metacognitive approach is more on like how does metacognition help you? Like for example, study smarter, not harder. Or is like uh understand why you make mistakes. Okay, to proceed. So there the basic metacognitive strategies. First is connecting new information to former knowledge. It is like having wisdom, like just like I said earlier, like you're having a reflection, like where metacognition helps you to think that you should study smarter, not harder. Like next is selecting s- thinking strategies. So in that manner, you will choose better strategies so you remember like will remember lesson longer. So it is also a way you understand why you make mistakes. Next is planning, monitoring, and evaluating thinking processes. So planning, like thinking or choosing what strategies to use. Like this as like said earlier, like for example, summarizing, drawing, or even using diagrams. Next is monitoring. When you say monitoring, it's like you're checking your own understanding while doing the task. Next is evaluating, meaning it is like reflecting if your strategy or your strategy work after you do the task. So using these steps or these steps, it helps you make you more independent and an effective learner. So to become a self-regulated learner who can learn independently, so teachers can use techniques like think alouds, reflection journals, checklists, and strategic questioning. Like, for example, what is your goal? It helps students to build metacognitive skills. Okay, to proceed. Yeah, so here's the process flow from planning, organize, um, monitor, to evaluate. First, like for thinking, uh, what topic will you choose? Then you will monitor or like you will check your understanding. Next is you will reflect if that strategy of yours or you've chosen is an effective one. Okay, so to proceed, so instructional characteristics of metacognitive approach. So metacognitive instruction has distinct features. First one is explicit strategy instruction. teachers deliberately teach not just the content but also how to learn the aspect. So this one is like the teachers does not just spoon feed, but it is another approach or a feature of how teacher teaches their students how or the ways how to learn that certain lesson or that uh certain topic. Okay. So next is modeling through think alouds. So teachers demonstrate their thought processes while solving problem or reading a text. So next is the reflection activities. So reflection activities, like I said earlier, like learning logs, journals, or the exit tickets, which tickets encourage self-assessment. So in that manner, it can help students to think or to help them assess themselves of did they learn of how much they've how much lessons or what part of the lesson they've learned. Okay. So to proceed, next is scaffolding and gradual release. So learners first observe, then practice with guidance, and finally apply strategies independently. So this characteristic, it talks about there's a proper sequence of how a student learn. Like for example, the learners will first observe how the teacher demonstrate. Then next is the teacher let the student practice it, but with the guidance of the teacher. The next is finally to apply what the student learn independently. Okay. Next and the last characteristic of metacognitive approach is the integration across subjects. So metacognitive skills can be applied in science experiments, math problem solving, essay writing, and project planning. So next is to proceed. Let's learn also about the guidelines for effective use. So the first one, teach strategies explicitly. So students must shown when, how, and why strategies are used. So next is the embed reflection. So regular short reflections help learners internalize metacognitive practices. Like it helps students assess the learnings about a certain topic or the lesson. So third one is to use prompts and questions. So provide guiding questions such as what is my goal? Am I on the right track? What will I do differently next time? These questions it helps students to assess also that it will help them that they that this question guide them in tracking or reflecting if they like like they if they understand or they or in these questions also they check their own understanding, especially when doing the task or then yeah after the task, or this also help they will reflect if their strategy worked in or after the task. So to proceed, so next is to give feedback on strategies, not just results. So as teachers, let's praise students for monitoring their work, even if the final answer is incorrect. So in this manner, It can help students to boost their self-esteem or even their self-confidence, right? So next is to encourage collaboration. For example, pair or group tasks allow learners to share strategies and observe other thinking processes. So by working in a group or in a pair, it can help students to know to not just work uh, independently, but also to learn, especially to learn or to improve their collaboration skills, right? So, lastly, is to connect to real life tasks. So, emphasize transferability, such as using summarization strategies in both English and science. Okay, so to proceed, let's know about the advantages of the metacognitive approach. So the first one, it develops self-regulated learners who take responsibility for their own progress. Next, it enhances critical thinking and problem-solving skills by teaching learners to choose and adapt strategies. Next, improves learning efficiency, such as students recognize ineffective habits and replace them with better ones. Next is to promote. It promotes a lifelong learning, since learners gain tools they can apply beyond the classroom. And lastly, is to supports diverse learners, including those with difficulties, by making learning strategies explicit. On the other hand, to proceed, let's know the disadvantages and challenges of metacognitive approach. So first one is time consuming. So explicit modeling, like strategies, instruction, and reflection can reduce time for covering content. Next, it requires teacher expertise. So teachers need to train in strategy instruction and think aloud methods. Next is it is risk of learners resistance. So some students may initially find reflection unnecessary or even burdensome. And next is difficult to measure. So assessing metacognition is more complex than grading test answers. Okay. And next is, and lastly, for the disadvantages or the challenges of metacognitive approach, cognitive overload for beginners. For those beginners, device learners may struggle to monitor themselves while learning new content, especially for those who, who is having a hard time grasping or learning the topic, right? So that is for my part. Thank you for listening. May I call on the attention of the next reporter, Miss Renze Duarte, for she will be discussing about the integrated approach.
So, good morning, everyone. Good day, everyone. So, today I'm going to discuss about integrated approach. So, what is integrated approach? Next slide, please. So, integrated approach means it is a holistic strategy that combines different elements, systems, and perspectives to work together as a single unified whole, promoting synergy and a deeper understanding than fragmented or compartmentalized methods. So, integrated approach means combining subjects or skills for the students to understand situations more clearly. So, what is compartmentalized? So, compartmentalized methods can refer to two main concepts. So first is a teaching method of separating subjects and knowledge into isolated categories. Second is a personal coping mechanism used by teachers and students to manage stress. For example, for the subject TLE, the students design a small business plan. So in order for them to compute the pricing, capital, or the profit margin, they need math. So for the art, for the subject art, they can create a logo or promotional poster for their product. So this teaches them real world business skills with creativity. So what is the next is the characteristic of integrated approach. Kindly next slide, please. So what is the characteristics of integrated approach? So first is combination. It involves combining or uniting different parts or elements into one coherent system. So combination means bringing together the different parts or ideas or elements to form one complete system or approach. Instead of working separately, these pieces are united so they can support each other. In education, this could mean merging topics from different subjects to create a single connected lesson. The goal is to make learning more organized, meaningful by showing how concepts relate. Second is holistic perspectives. It encourages a broader organizational viewpoint by highlighting the relationships between various disciplines or functions. So a holistic perspective focuses on seeing the big picture rather than looking at each part individually. It encourages learners or organizations to understand how different elements work together. For example, for the students, this means understanding not just one subject, but how subjects influence one another. This viewpoint promotes deeper understanding because learning is viewed as part of a larger system. Third is synergy. The integration of components aim to create synergy where the combined parts produce a greater effect than the sum of their individual efforts. So synergy happens when combined efforts produce results that are greater than what each part could achieve alone. It shows that teamwork or integrated strategies can lead to better outcomes in education when subjects like science, math, and technology are blended. Students often understand lessons more clearly than if they were taught separately. Synergy means learning more powerful and effective. Next is interconnectedness. So interconnectedness, it breaks down traditional barriers between subjects, teams, or processes, fostering connection and meaningful context for learning or work. So interconnectedness refers to the idea that different subjects, teams, or processes are linked together and influence one another. These concepts breaks down barriers between areas that are usually taught separately. For example, science, math, and ICT, they are taught separately, but in integrated approach, they combine together in order for the students to learn engage in order for the students to learn. For example, history can connect to literature or math can support science experiments. Recognizing interconnectedness helps students see learning as a unified experience, not divided into isolated topics. Next and last characteristics is meaningful context. In education, for instance, it organizes learning around themes that and meaningful context rather than isolated subjects. Meaningful context means teaching or organizing learning around real-life themes, problems, and situations that students can relate to. Instead of Learning topics in isolation, students learn them in a way that makes sense in their everyday lives. For example, a lesson about environmental protection can include science, social studies, and English activities all tied to the same time. This approach helps students understand why they are learning something and how it applies to the real world. So next is the guidelines of using the integrated approach. So first is sequence skills. So novices build foundational disciplinary literacy. So this means organizing skills from the simplest to more complex so that beginners can develop strong basic knowledge before moving to advanced concepts. Students need to understand fundamental terms, tools, and ways of thinking in a subject before they can analyze or create more complex work. Proper sequencing ensures that learning smooth, logical, and not overwhelming. For example of this is if you teach a grade 7 year level, grade 7 students you need to focus on on the topics that align with the grade 7, and are if you are assigned to grade 9 learners, so you need to focus on on the topics that align on grade 9, not not maglatang-latang siya. So next is use explicit modeling of discipline specific strategies. So explicit modeling means the teacher clearly demonstrates how an expert in a subject thinks and work. This includes showing step-by-step problem solving in math, analyzing text in English, or interpreting data in science. For example, like in a scenario that you need to before you introduce the topic, make sure that you master very well the topic before discussing it to the class, so that you can explain the step-by-step process of that equation in order to know how that equation to be solved. So next is include frequent formative checks to ensure conceptual mastery. Formative checks are short assessments such as quizzes or activities or post activities in order for the teacher to know if the students understand the lesson. These checks allows the teacher to correct misunderstanding before they become the bigger problems. Regular feedback ensures that students truly master the concepts, not just memorize them temporarily. So next, guidelines is provide rich exemplars of expert disciplinary work. So exemplars are high quality examples that show what excellent work looks like in a specific subject. For instance, teachers may share a strong science lab report, a well-written essay, or a professional level graph or design. These models understand the standards of the discipline and guide them in producing their own high quality works. So next slide, please. Graded approach. So next is call. Okay, there's the advantage and disadvantage of integrated approach. So for the advantages of integrated approach may limit transfer and application in real world cross-cutting context. Mitigation periodically include transfer tasks that ask learner to apply disciplinary expertise to problems in other domains. For the disadvantage, deep content knowledge and stronger mastery of disciplinary thinking and vocabulary. And lastly, easier to align to a standards in assessments that are discipline specific. So that's all for my part. Thank you for listening, everyone. May I call on the attention of the next reporter, Ms. Roxanne Sopeter, for she will be discussing about the interdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary teaching or content-based instruction.
Thank you so much. Good day, everyone. And before that, before I will proceed to our my discussion. What are your learnings from the previous reporters? And that is the metacognitive approach and integrated approach. So I will be discussing the different teaching approach used in modern education. And this include the interdisciplinary approach, interdisciplinary approach, content-based instruction, CBI, and that's all. So let's proceed. So intradisciplinary approach. So what is intradisciplinary approach? So when we say intradisciplinary approach, it is an instruction organized around the knowledge, methods, and ways of thinking particular to one discipline. Example, a science unit that explores physics content using only physics method. So intradisciplinary approach means that we only focuses on one subject area, and that is physics. So all learning activities remain within a single discipline. So this approach sticks to one subject but connects to different part of that subject. And what the example said, that a science unit that explores physics content using only physics method. And class, how to remember what is interdisciplinary approach. To remember what is interdisciplinary approach, from the word intra, that is inside, means inside, that is inside in one subject only. So we focuses or we stay only inside one discipline. So you fully understand what is interdisciplinary approach. Think of this example. So if I will teach physics, I will stay in physics only, not to math, not to English, not to science, no other subject, just one, and that is physics. So interdisciplinary approach means one subject, one focus, one discipline. All right, class. So let's proceed. So here are the steps in using interdisciplinary approach. And first, that is identify disciplinary learning targets or big disciplinary ideas or practices. So it means that the teacher decide the main goals or the big ideas for that subject. So for example, students should understand the force and motion. Can you get it, class? All right, let's proceed to the second bullet. So that is active prior disciplinary knowledge and vocabulary. So what is this mean, class? It means that the teacher will decide or to check what student already know and reminds them of important words in that subject. For example, asking teacher will ask students what they already know about the velocity or acceleration. So let's proceed. So teach model disciplinary method, for example, hypothesis testing in science. So it means that the teacher demonstrate how expert in that field work. For example, in science, students learn how to create a hypothesis and test it. So for the fourth bullet, guided disciplinary practice or scaffolded task. So it means that students practice the skills with the support from the teachers. And for another example, the teacher gives a step-by-step experiment for a student to follow. For the fifth one, or for the fifth bullet, content application or authentic disciplinary task. So it means, class, that students apply what they learn on their own in the real test. So for another example, students design their own simple experiment using physics principle. So the last bullet is reflect on disciplinary thinking and assess using discipline-aligned criteria. So it means class that students think about what they learn and the teachers check their work using standard for that subject. Another example is checking if the student experiment follows scientific and methods check. So can you get it, everyone, or can you understand it all? All right, great. So let's proceed. So instructional characteristic. So there are three instructional characteristic and intradisciplinary approach, and that is emphasizes disciplinary inquiry and discourse. Second one uses authentic disciplinary tests and assessments. Third one, or the last one, focuses on the depth mastery conventions domain vocabulary. So let's first tackle what is the first bullet or the emphasizes disciplinary inquiry and discourse. So it means class that students think, question, and talk like expert in that subject. And for example, in science, they discuss observation just like scientists do. So for the second one, uses authentic test and assessment. And what is the meaning of this class? That is, students do real tasks that people in that field actually do. And that is uses authentic disciplinary tests and assessment. So for example, student will conduct experiment or analyzing data. And for the last one, instructional characteristics, and that is focuses on depth, mastery of conventions, domain vocabulary. And that means class that student learn the subject deeply, use correct methods, and understand important terms. For example, knowing the meaning of words like force, mass, and gravity, and using them properly. And that's all for interdisciplinary approach. And let's discuss what is the interdisciplinary approach. Let's proceed. So what is interdisciplinary approach? So interdisciplinary approach or interdisciplinary teaching intentionally link concept, skills, and perspective from two or more disciplines to explore a theme, question, or problem that cannot be fully addressed by a single subject. So for disciplinary approach that is only focuses on one, but an interdisciplinary approach focuses on two or more discipline. So this approach, interdisciplinary approach, combines two or more subjects to explore one theme, question, or problem. And it means that we do not study a topic from only one subject. Instead, we connect different subjects so that students gain a deeper and more complete understanding. And for example, so that you can fully understand what is interdisciplinary approach, if the topic is climate change, we might use study greenhouse gases. Well, however, if geography to understand affect areas and economics to look at the financial impact. And this approach helps students see how subjects are related in real life situation. So to proceed, we have Julie Thompson Clan, 1944 to 2023. Julie Thompson Clan was a professor and a pioneering scholar in interdisciplinary studies, most notably for her influential taxonomy that distinguishes between multidisciplinarity, interdisciplinarity, and transdisciplinarity. Her, her extensive body Her extensive body of work provided a critical framework for understanding the nature, history, and practice of integrated knowledge across diverse academic fields. So it means that Julie Thompson Klein is a very important scholar in interdisciplinary studies because she helped define the differences between multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary approaches. See, Julie Thompson Glenn, her work give us a framework to understand which can be connected, and this is often cited in studies about integrated learning. And to proceed, let's compare the interdisciplinary. So let's go. Our approach focuses on within one subject area. But while interdisciplinary approach focuses on linkages cut across multiple subject areas. So let's go with the integration level between interdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach. So for interdisciplinary approach, combine subdisciplines or concepts within one field. For example, in language, a teacher may connect reading and oral communication skills, while the interdisciplinary approach combines distinct integrate science, geography, and with the teacher collaboration between interdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach. So for interdisciplinary approach, it means that less dependent on formal collaboration with other teachers, though it can be benefit from coordinating the sequencing of topic across grade levels. For the interdisciplinary approach typically requires deliberate planning and collaboration between teachers from different subject areas to align lessons and curricula. And for the last one, let's explore examples of interdisciplinary approach and interdisciplinary approach. And for the interdisciplinary approach, example, a mathematics teacher integrating arithmetic and geometry concept into a single lesson on measurement. While the interdisciplinary approach, a history teacher and a literature teacher coordinating their lesson on the civil rights movement with students reading novels related to the historical period. So let's proceed. What is content-based instruction? So let's first explore what is content-based instructions. So CBI is the pedagogical method originally articulated in second language teaching, where language learning across a course through instruction in subject matter, for example, teaching history in the target language. And it means everyone that instead of memorizing the grammar, or CBI is also used for a language learning, and this method is student learn a language by studying real subject content such as science, math, or history. And instead of memorizing the grammar, students learn the language naturally through meaningful lessons. And for example, teaching history using English helps students improve their language skills while understanding the historical events. So let's proceed. So the content-based instruction model, and we have four. First, theme-based or sheltered. Second is junk model. Third is immersion or sheltered content. And the fourth one is theme project-based CBI or content-based instructions. So let's discuss what is the meaning of the theme base. So when we say meaning of the theme base, it is a lesson follow one big theme. And for adjunct model, students take the two linked courses that support each other like English and science. And for the third one, immersion or sheltered content means that students learn subject fully in the target language. And the last one, theme project-based CBI, student complete project using both language and content-based. So let's proceed. So we will tackle about the step to design an interdisciplinary or the CBI unit. So first chooses a compiling theme or driving question that requires multiple perspectives. Second is identify standard and learning objectives through each involved discipline, content skills, language, objectives of CBI. Third one is develop essential question and authentic performance tasks. And the last one teaching episode that intentionally build concept and each discipline while making cross-link explicit. So the first one is choose. So choose a major theme or question that needs multiple subjects to understand it. Secondly, identify the learning objectives for each subject involved. And for the third one, develop essential question and tasks that show real understanding. And the fourth one, plan lessons that clearly connect the subject. Let's proceed. So we have another step to design an interdisciplinary or CBI unit, and that is use scaffolds, vocab, pre-teach, graphic organizers, modeling. That means that we will use such as vocabulary scaffolding tools such as vocabulary reviews, graphic organizer, and the teacher modeling to support the student learning, and formatively assess both content understanding and integrative instruction. That means that we use scaffolds we use content. Ah, so the second last one is formatively assess both content understanding and integrative skills refine instructor. That means understanding and how they connect ideas across the subject. And the last one, culminating integrative product or the performance and reflective transfer task. So it means that the unit should be and the final performance task or the subject or the project where a student integrate everything they learn. So let's proceed. So here are the 4 guidelines for effective use. So first is begin with clear driving question and map standards. Second, keep explicit discipline anchors. Don't dilute disciplinary rigor. Use concept maps and explicit transfer tasks to show how ideas connect. And the fourth one is provide teacher collaboration time and co-teaching models. And that's all for my part. May I call the attention of Ms. Renzi Duarte as she discussed the transdisciplinary approach, problem-based learning, or the place-based learning. And that's all. Thank you, everyone. God bless.
So good day, everyone. I'm going to discuss the transdisciplinary approach, problem-based learning or PBL, or place-based learning. So first, I'm going to discuss the transdisciplinary approach. So a transdisciplinary approach aims to solve real-world problems by integrating knowledge from different academic disciplines and collaborating with non-academic partners like communities and policymakers. So it goes beyond simply by combining school subjects. It connects classroom knowledge with real-life problems. It brings together ideas from different academic disciplines such as science, social studies, math, and even the arts to create solutions that are practical and meaningful. So what makes it unique that is that it also involves in non-academic partners like community members, local leaders, experts, and policymakers. By working with people who experience real issues firsthand, students gain deeper understanding and create solutions that can actually be used in real situations. So this approach encourages teamwork, creativity, problem solving, and real world application of learning. For example, budgeting and entrepreneurship. So students plan a small business or school event. So for them to calculate the cost, revenues, and profits, they need math. So for them or for their business to maglago, they need to collaborate with community mentors or local entrepreneurs to implement their plan. So let's proceed. Next, problem-based learning or PBL. So what is problem-based learning? So problem-based learning is problem-based learning is a teaching method centered on solving an open-ended, authentic problem in a transdisciplinary context. PBL can be used to structure a collaborative project that draws from multiple fields. So it is a teaching approach that where students learn by solving real-world open-ended problems rather than just memorizing facts. In a transdisciplinary context, PBL connects multiple subjects, allowing students to apply knowledge from different fields to find practical solutions. It promotes critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and decision making because students must research, analyze, propose solutions while considering real life constraints. For example, the project is designing a community garden. The problem is a local community wants to build a garden but has limited space, budget, and resources. For the math application, students need to calculate the area for planting, determine the amount of soil and water needed, estimate cost, and create a budget. So for the other subjects that integrated, first is science. The students need to study the plant, how the plant grows, soil quality, and environmental impact. For the social studies, consider community needs and cultural significance of plants. And the outcome is students present a detailed practical garden plan that meets the community's need using math as the core tool for planning and analysis. Next is the place-based learning and a transdisciplinary framework. In next, so what is place-based learning? So place-based learning uses the local community and environment as the central learning resource. When integrated into a transdisciplinary framework, it provides an immediate relevant context for tackling complex issues. Place-based learning focuses on using the local community, environment, or surroundings as the main resources for learning. When combined with transdisciplinary approach, students apply knowledge from multiple subjects to solve real problems that affect their own community. So these methods make learning more relevant, meaningful, and engaging because students see the direct impact of their work. It encourages observation, analysis, collaboration, and critical thinking while connecting classroom lessons to real life situations. For example, the project is analyzing the traffic patterns in the local community. So the problem is local roads are congested during school hours, causing delays and safety concerns. For the math application, students need to collect the data on vehicle counts, traffic speed, and peak hours. So they need to use statistics, graphs, and average to analyze patterns and identify problem areas. So, another subjects integrated. First is the social studies. It explored the community impact of traffic and urban planning. Next subject is science. Study environmental effects like air pollution. And the outcome of the project is students proposed practical solutions such as optimize traffic flow, alternate routes, or community awareness campaigns applying math and other disciplines to solve a real local problem. So let's proceed. So what are the advantage of transdisciplinary approach? So first is fosters deep contextualized learning, develops key 21st century skills like critical thinking, communication, and collaboration, increases student engagement and motivation by connecting learning to their own living and communities. Next is the disadvantages of transdisciplinary approach. So it requires significant planning, resources, and time from educators, can be demanding for students who are not used to self-directed or group work. The ill-defined nature of the problems can be challenging for both teachers and students. Please proceed. So for the conclusion, the difference between interdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and transdisciplinary approaches, it all enhance learning by creating meaningful connections, but they differ in scope and purpose. The interdisciplinary approach links concepts with a single subject, strengthening internal understanding, while interdisciplinary approach integrates two or more subjects to deepen learning through collaboration between disciplines. The transdisciplinary approach goes beyond subject boundaries by using real problems as the center of learning. Together, these approaches show how education can move from isolated knowledge to more connected, relevant, and holistic learning experiences. That's all for our topic or discussions. Class, any questions? Clarifications? That's all. Thank you everyone for listening, and goodbye.